Okay, should I move ahead? Can you see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we were talking about the ordinal attributes. So in that case, the order was important. For example, bad was something which was ranked lower to fair or to good. So here this is basically ascending order of goodness. Here this is descending order of height. Grades could be A, B, C, D, E, F. So here if you see that all these things are in some order. So this order is important. In nominal attributes, we are not talking about the order. We are only talking about that there is some number. Now this number could be unique or it might not be unique. So we are not talking about any property of that sort. We are only saying that it belongs to some natural or real number set. Or maybe if possible, if because we have not discussed eye color, so maybe there are some values, for example, blue, black, hazel, and let's say brown and green. Wow, somebody has green eyes. So now if you see here, ordering is not important. There are some values which are not belonging to real number or natural number. There are some special classes of values, but ordering is not important. So such attributes will also be known as nominal attributes, but most of the time nominal attributes are numeric, but we are also including this kind of attributes in nominal. Now, any questions? Okay. Interval means that some attributes follow a particular interval, like dates are generally in interval, period. For example, for your when I am recording the data of BSc Honors Computer Science, then we will say batch of 2018 to let's say 21 or 19 to 22, so on and so forth. So temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit can also be recorded in interval. So having said that, temperature can also be a numeric attribute, but this can also be used in interval. Temperature should be, for example, if I say that the coronavirus cannot survive over 27 degrees Celsius. So we are saying so that maybe let's start from 0 to 27. So we are saying that this is the interval which we should be really worried about, and this is the interval that we should this is the temperature that we should maintain. So this is how intervals are important. Then ratio, for example, Kelvin temperature is generally measured in ratio. Then length and time and counts can be measured in ratio. For example, ratio of how much amount of information or how much amount of money somebody has, what is. So ratio is important in those case. For example, ratio of salaries, that I have my salary doubled, all these things are ratio. Now what you can do with these attributes? So nominal will check distinctness, one thing. If you remember in databases also, for certain kind of attributes, you had a constraint of distinctness. For example, my Aadhaar number is a nominal attribute, but it has to be distinct. Because you are checking for distinctness or not distinctness, then you can do these two operations. You can do equal to and not equal to operations on this. And in ordinal, distinctness is important, but order is also important. So these two things will also come into picture. Less than, greater than, you could have done less than, greater than over here, but what about if you had eyes as blue or black? You could have not done this. You will say either eyes were blue or they were black, so maybe they not equal to would have worked over here. But less than or greater than, either is not important in the case of nominal, or it it doesn't work in certain situations like eye color. Then in interval kind of attributes, distinctness is important, which interval it lies. It something cannot lie in two intervals unless until the intervals are overlapping. Then order is also important, and you can have a meaningful difference, some meaningful differences between the intervals. So you have addition and subtraction also. Then ratio generally has these two operations, which is logical, multiplying and division operations for ratio kind of attributes. So this is just a summary of, these attributes. Nominal attributes you can only distinguish. Then examples could be employee IDs, zip codes, eye color, gender, and mode. Operations could be mode. How many number of people are male, or how many of them have hazel eyes. You could compute entropy. Entropy we will discuss in detail. Entropy is basically measure of how much disturbance a system has. So if I say that all the people are males, so there is absolutely no entropy. And if we say 50% are male and 50% are female, then the system has high entropy. So contingency, correlation, chi-square test, all these operations you can perform on nominal kind of data. We will be using this and this mostly for our course, but you, if you want, you can give this a read. Then ordinal attributes, we already discussed that they can be compared. Uh, and it's, for example, hardness of mineral, something which is malleable, something which is not malleable, good, better, best, grades, street numbers, all these things are ordinal attributes where ordering is important. And you can compute the median, you can compute the percentiles. Now see the operations, it's quite logical. You cannot compute a percentage or an average of this. You can compute a percentile, how many people are in the category good, how many are better, how many are best. So, and you will have, instead of correlation, you will have rank correlation. Then there will be sign tests and run tests. This, if you have studied statistics, you will be able to understand. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Most likely we will be using these. Interval attributes will have meaningful differences apart from these two. So calendar dates, temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. You can compute the mean of a mean in an interval, standard deviation. You can do T and F test, find Pearson's correlation. Ratios have this thing, multiplication and divisions. For Kelvin, the temperature in Kelvin scale is a good example of ratio. Then other monetary quantities, age, mass, length, current, V equals to IR, basically that current. You can compute the geometric mean or harmonic mean for ratio kind of attributes. Now, if you want to transform, see, transformation is important when suppose you are going to scale data. Let me give you an example. Let's say if we want to, again I discussed about, I think, credit worthiness of a person. So you have a person who had attributes like name, age. Let's say he had an attribute which was his yearly income, and maybe his credit score, let's say. And let's say if he had a house, so his cost of the house, okay. And generally the credit score is within some range, starting from, let's say, 100 to, let's assume 100 to 200. And housing price, if you talk about in Indian rupees and not in dollars, then it could be some crores also, it could be some lakhs, it could be crore also. So 90 lakhs, 1 crore, 2 crore. So if you compare data of credit score 100 and to 200, and if you compare housing price 1 CR to, let's say, 2 CR, that is how housing prices are. Now if you want to use these two values in some of your mining algorithm, so these two values belong to a completely different scale. I mean, this is definitely not comparable. You can't compare these apple and oranges. So you might need to transform them to bring them to the same scale. Scale matlab when you are mapping it up to something else or mapping it down. So suppose if I want to map it to a scale between the range 0 to 1, and I want to also map this to the scale 0 to 1. So when I do this, then in this case, I'm doing is I am transforming these attributes to some other values. Now these are also real numbers or some natural numbers, but you are taking some other permutation of values. So nominal attributes can take any permutation of values, but there is something special. If you for example, in case of employee id, in this case it is making this transformation is making some difference. But if you are talking about employee id, and you are assigning it from 1 to apart instead of from 1 to 100, you are doing it from 200 to 300 or 1000 to 1100, then it wouldn't really make a difference. But in this case it will make a difference. So you have to understand why you need to do a transformation. Is it really important? Will it be really beneficial to do a transformation or not? Okay, now if you have a question, please ask me. Okay, so then ordinal values. If you have to make a transformation in case of ordinal attributes, then you have to make that transformation such that it preserves the change. It is basically maintains the monotonicity. If the order is monotonically increasing, then the transformation should also be monotonically increasing. It could be like this, or if it is monotonically decreasing, then the transformation should also be monotonically decreasing. So it should be some function of the new value is some function of old value, where this f is a monotonic function, either increasing or decreasing. So for example, here they have qualified good, better, best. So they can be represented equally well with this as well as this. And in case of an interval, you will need both scaling as well as addition. And for example, Fahrenheit and Celsius temperature scales differ. So if you are mapping them, so you will have to take care of how these things differ. If you are mapping from Fahrenheit to Celsius, then you will have to take care of the right formula. You can't simply do that, okay, if my temperature is 32 degrees C, and if I'm talking about double the temperature, so 64. Now Fahrenheit scale, if I have 64 temp or let's say equivalent temperature of 32 degrees C, I think it should be around something around 93 or 95, I don't know. So it cannot be that you are simply doubling it to get a value. You will have to take care of the formula, that the relationship between these two values, to find the equivalent mapping. So this you have to be careful about when you are doing transformation. Then you are talking about ratio. So ratio is simply scaling. But if you are scaling, then what happens? So you can measure the length if you are measuring length and in meters or feet, again, a simple scaling will not work. Then you have to understand how meter and feet relate to each other. After that relationship has been taken into account, then only you will do the scaling. Okay, this I am teaching you, talking to you about, because this is what you will be doing in data pre-processing. Not all attributes will be in the form that you want. Some attributes may have a order, but you want them to be in, let's say, meters and not feet. So then you have to do the transformation. In that case, you can't simply scale them by multiplying it with a factor. Maybe you have data in Fahrenheit scale and you are measuring you are talking about some weather, you are predicting some weather and you want it to be in Celsius scale, then you will have to take care of the relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius before you transform these values. So this is important, that what kind of transformation you can apply on a particular attribute, and if you are applying the transformation, is it really applicable, and what will be the impact of that transformation on the end unit. Okay. Okay, so any difference that you know between ratio and interval attributes that you can think about? Ratio and interval sound pretty similar. So any difference that you can think about between uh, interval and ratio attributes? Any thoughts?
Same
Okay.
types, ma'am.
No, they're not same because you cannot have ratio less than 0. It is never possible. You will never have a ratio which is below 0. But in interval, you can have negative values. Ratio will never fall below 0.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So now, okay, so going back just a second. So these are also called categorical values, where you have categories of values. For example, if I'm saying 1 to 100 employee IDs, then I'm talking about 100 categories of employee IDs. When I am talking about eye color, so let's say we have 5 types of eye color: blue, black, brown, hazel, and green. So these are categorical attributes. Just like if you remember your enum, there are categories. So these are 5 categories of attribute. So nominal and ordinal are categorical attributes, and interval and ratio are numeric attributes. I think I have made a mistake over here. Nominal is not taking numeric quantities. It may take numeric quantities. I made a mistake, I think, over here when I said that this is numeric. No, this will not be numeric. It may take natural or real numbers, but each of them will be counted as a separate category. So if you have 1 to 100, so that means you have 100 categories of student. So probably ID number will not be a very good idea to categorize a student, but his score may be, anyone who is greater than 90 is one category of student, somebody between 80 to 90 is one category of students. So here this marks or scores are taking numeric values, but you have different categories to define them. We will discuss more of this when we talk about data processing and other algorithms. These are numeric or quantitative attributes, the intervals and ratio. And either you are not listening properly, or I don't know, you should have pointed this out to me that I made a mistake. If you were listening properly, you would have pointed out this mistake to me. Anyways,
Which mistake?
I said that nominal were numeric attributes. If you were reading this correctly, you would have pointed out if they were numeric, then why have you written it as qualitative or categorical? Category is something like category A, B, C, or somebody who's getting a score greater than 90, somebody who has a grade B. So these things are categories. And I told you that it is taking some continuous values. It belongs to real number and natural number. It may take these values, but each of these individual values will be considered as a category. But it is not actually a numeric attribute, it is a categorical attribute, in the sense that when I talk about eye color, or when I talk about grades, when I talk about being able to repay my loan, so it's a category called yes or no. So all these things are come under categorical or nominal attributes. Numeric is basically some interval or ratio. For example, when I say height, when I talk about height, so maybe height of a child lies between some, some some interval, and for an adult it lies between some interval. So this is numeric, and you will have continuous values here. Similarly, if I talk about weight, if I am saying that somebody is heavy or light weight, or somebody is obese, or maybe borderline obese, or not obese, or skinny, let's say anorexic, so then this is a category. But if I'm talking about weight in terms of kgs, kilograms, or grams, or ounces, in that case it is a continuous value. So how you are interpreting is, it is also different. So if you are saying that the weight is somebody is obese, or if somebody is very heavy, in that case it could come into ordinal or nominal category. Ordinal because probably we are talking about order over here. But if I am saying that somebody weighs 48 kgs, somebody weighs 82.3 kgs, in that case it will come under interval category. Or if I say that somebody is twice the weight, when you talk about boxing championships and all these things, then this kind of terminology comes into picture. Then it's a numeric attribute, yes, and it might be, in the ratio category, in the ratio type
मैम
of attribute.
इंटरवल
Yes.
मैम इंटरवल में तो रेंज होती है ना, इधर से मतलब एक
हाँ
एक
जी,
उससे।
हाँ
हाँ
जी, हाँ
तो
जी।
मैम
तो
सेल्सियस और
जैसे
फ़ारेनहाइट वाले एग्जांपल
चीजें
में
का,
तो ये तो कोई एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू होगी ना तब भी।
नहीं, अब जैसे मैं रेंज की बात करूँ, इफ आई से दैट ओके 5 ईयर ओल्ड का वेट क्या होगा, सो प्रोबेबली वी विल से बिटवीन 15 to 20 kgs. सो अब वो 15 to 20 kgs है, मान लो, so obviously it could be 20.5 also, and then we will say okay it's going out of the interval, but 15 to 20 के बीच में वो कोई भी वैल्यू ले सकता है ना, 15.9 भी ले सकता है, 19.92 भी ले सकता है.
यस मैम।
So in that terms, it's a numeric or a continuous or quantitative attribute. Here it is a qualitative attribute. जैसे ही मैं बोलूंगी कि यार उसका वेट 14 kgs है, तो मैं 14 kgs को अगर मैं बोल दूं अंडर वेट की कैटेगरी में, तो वो कैटेगोरिकल बन जाएगा. तो ये एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है जो आप इंटरवल या न्यूमरिक से कैटेगोरिकल में कर रहे हो. समझे हर्ष? Okay. Okay, coming back to discrete
यस मैम
and
समझ आ
okay, thank you so much. So coming back to discrete attributes will have finite countable set of values. अगर मैं students की बात करूं, तो चाहे 100 हो मेरे पास students या 1000 हो, I can always count them. So this is a discrete attribute. But अगर मैं weight की बात करूं, तो weight को between 15 to 20 की बात अगर आप करो, this interval, तो इसमें भी आप काउंट नहीं कर सकते. इनफाइनाइट नंबर ऑफ वेट्स आर पॉसिबल इन दिस इंटरवल आल्सो. So discrete is finite set. For example, zip codes, counts, set of words in a document, representation as integer variables, binary attributes like yes or no, or other categorical attributes जैसे मैंने eye colors की बात करी, black, brown, green, yellow. Oh, sorry, eye color yellow is, sorry, hazel. All these things are countable, so they are discrete kind of attribute. So we are talking about the same attributes that we had discussed there, but we are categorizing them differently. Then you have continuous attributes. So continuous attributes are that real numbers will take the attribute values. So temperature, height, weight are continuous. All these examples, length, all these things are continuous. Real values can only be measured and they can be represented using finite number of digits. So you are representing them as finite number of digits, but there will be numerous values which you might not be able to count. And they can be represented as floating point variables also. Let me take a pause for 5 minutes and then I will continue. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, I'm back. So I'm starting again. So then there are other types of attributes. Some attributes are can be categorized as asymmetric attributes whose presence or a non-zero attribute value is regarded as important. For example, whether a word is present in a document, whether an item is present in a transaction. See, when we do sentiment analysis of text, you have a lot something written in your, okay, let me do a sentiment analysis of this page. Now dictionary will have n number of words, that the corpora is large, but for me what is important in this case, what words are present. So when we are talking about attributes, we are talking about transactions, we are talking about properties, then in that case it is important to understand that, if these words are present, so if I am categorizing what kind of document it is, then if attribute, data, transactions, these kind of words are present, association is present, then we can simply say that, okay, this document is most likely a document from data mining or databases. So we are categorizing them as for tagging of this document, the presence of certain words is important. So we will not be talking about whether a word called king was present over here or not. Why? Because absence will not do us any gain, or it will not help us gain any meaningful information, because there will be a lot of words like, politics and elections, or computer virus probably, or from geography, Asia, India, all these things, these words will be absent from this document. Why? Because it is not a document related to politics, it is not a document related to geography. So here, in such a scenario, the presence of certain words is more important. So these kind of attributes, when presence of a certain attribute is important, then that such attribute is known as asymmetric attribute. For example, in case of a customer transaction, when you go to a shopping mall, you don't buy everything that is on the floor. You buy something that is important for you. So if you have to compare two shopping carts, then you will not say, okay, so let's say that you bought snacks and beer, and somebody bought, let's say, milk and bread. So can you really say that, these two transactions are same, just because they do not contain a lot of items, a lot of items are absent from these shopping carts? No, these shopping carts will be similar only if somebody also bought milk and bread. So that's why asymmetric attributes focus on presence or absence, and mostly it's the presence of something that is we will be focusing on. If you want to represent a asymmetric binary attribute, then you will need two attributes, one to indicate presence and the other one to indicate absence. So you will need two asymmetric binary attributes to represent one ordinary binary attribute. Suppose if a binary attribute has value yes or no, then in this case, if you are talking about asymmetric attribute, then you will need, so a simple binary attribute was like this. It could be yes or it could be no. So now this will require two values, 1 or 0. One to indicate presence and the other to indicate absence. And they typically arise from objects that are sets. Now, what are the different type of data sets that we can talk about? We can talk about records, we can talk about graphs, we can talk about ordered data. So record could be organized in the form of a data matrix. Data matrix simply means you have record numbers or different data points here with their properties or attributes. Then document data will be, so you have different documents, and here you will see what words are present, and similarly for transaction data. So this is record data. It consists of collection of records, each of which contains a fixed set of attributes. In data matrix, objects have fixed set of numeric attributes. So you will notice that each object will have a fixed set of numeric attribute, and the data objects can be thought of as points in multi-dimensional space. So if you have, let's say, 5 dimensions or 4 dimensions, so this is a multi-dimensional space. These are dimension 1, dimension 2, 3, 4, 5. If you had more columns, then 6 dimension, 7 dimension. So this is a multi-dimensional space, and each dimension represents a distinct attribute. Such data can be represented by M cross N matrix, where M is the number of records and N is the number of attributes. For example, image pixel is a good example for data matrix. Obviously, this is also a data matrix, but image pixel is what you can think of a good example of data matrix. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And when we talk about document data, to represent documents, we generally, give you compute a term vector. So if in data mining for documents, what happens is we will either use tagging of a document. So what happens? You see what is lying inside of a document, and you will generate tags for it. Okay, if it contains more of data mining terms or statistical terms, then it is probably a data science or a data mining document. If it contains more of location terms and weather terms, so it is probably weather document. If it contains movies, actors name, then it's probably an entertainment document. So here each term is a component of the vector. So for example, if I am analyzing a sports data, so here you will see that how many occurrences of a particular term were there in the document. So the document 1 had team, which appeared 3 times. Team did not appear in document 2 and not in document 3. So probably when we are talking about document 1, then this is a team game which we are talking about. Probably we are talking about, soccer or hockey or cricket. And here, if the team is not present, maybe an individual sport like tennis or badminton. So then coach, I don't know why coach didn't appear here. So assuming that, okay, coach appeared 0 times in document 1, 7 times in document 2, and 1 time in document 3. So if you see that this is the vector for a particular document, and if you talk about team's presence, this is a vector, term vector for a particular term. This is a term vector. So term vector is basically denoted by whether in a given corpus a particular word is present or not present. So if you are saying 3001, then you are saying that this appeared 3 times in document 1, 0 times in 2, 3 times in 3, 1 time in 4, so on and so forth. So this is how you will represent different terms by using their counting them their appearances and representing them as vector. Vector simply means something in one dimension. This is a vector. So it could be represented something like this. So or your term vector could be something like this. Okay, 3 0 0 1, so probably this something of this sort. Then transaction data is special type of record data. Each record transaction involves a set of items. So this is one transaction, this is another transaction. A set of product purchased by a customer during one shopping trip. मतलब अगर आपने एक बिल में पे जो भी पेमेंट करी है, one payment, one transaction that has been completed, the number of items together will form a transaction. So if you just purchased one item, you only purchased Coke, so that transaction will only contain one item. And so basically transaction is a composition of individual products that you purchased within that transaction. We are not at this point of time, we are not concerned about the number of units. So if you bought 3 cartons of milk, we will not be talking about that. Yes, but in advanced mining algorithms, the number of units also become important. But for now, for this course for specific purpose, we will not be focusing on the number of units. Graph data, I think I am sure you must be knowing, they are represented as nodes and edges, or probably if you studied chemistry, this can be the benzene molecule can be represented as graph. It should have been this, sorry. And anyways, graphs is basically nodes and edges, where node in case of document data is a document, edges if there is an outgoing link to this, and if there is an incoming link to from some other link. So if a lot of documents are suppose this is happening, a lot of documents are pointing to this particular document, then this document becomes important. And I think that is what search engines use. They use the number of inbound links to find if a document is important, and then they will probably raise the ranking on the search engine result page. So graph data is generally used to find which node is important, and in case of document data it can be represented like this. Obviously there will be in computer networks also, you will have nodes and edges. So if probably something is a router or something is a gateway, then that gateway will be more important. If your gateway is down, then all the hosts go down, so because all the hosts were talking to this gateway. Okay, so I am done with this. If you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, I will start covering proximity measures. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Okay, Ashwin is there in the class? I think so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ashwin, there are only 35 or 36 students who have joined the class. We have 44 students in our class. So can you please just check?
No, ma'am, I remind. Yes, ma'am, कर दूंगा.
Okay, because even if they are not able to attend classes, ask them to join. Otherwise, give me their email IDs so that I can add them, so that they know whatever course material or assignments I will be giving you. From next week, I will start giving you assignments and tests. So please inform them. Okay. Okay. If we are talking about ordered data, then for example, gene sequencing. If you know that about gene sequencing, anything about the gene sequencing, if I were to interchange this order, that this becomes a C and this becomes a G, it will manipulate the entire DNA. So in such a case, ordering is very important. If you know that there are a lot of diseases that are caused because one gene got changed or altered. So in case of ordered data like transactions, gene sequences, spatial and temporal data, ordering is very important. For example, let's take a simpler example. If I were to buy a washing machine or something, or maybe Alexa, if I bought Alexa, then only I will be using Alexa skills. I will not be using Alexa skills before buying Alexa. So there is no point selling me a new version of Alexa skills or something that is to be used with Alexa skills if I don't have Alexa at home. So what I bought before, after that only you can provide me something related to it. For example, if somebody is selling you a car insurance, and if you don't have a car, then probably they have not done their research right. They have to know when you bought the car, when is your insurance due, and how much at what point of time did you actually buy the car. All this information is important, hence ordering is important. Similarly, in intrusion detection systems or any other systems of this kind, alarms are raised when when a sequence of some events is altered. So order data will be very careful about how items or events are ordered. Now we'll talk about data quality. So poor quality will have a negative impact on data. So can anyone tell me, have you ever seen poor quality data? And can you give me an example of poor quality data? Anyone? No?
मैम आरोग्य सेतु ऐप।
How?
मैम उसमें कोई प्रोविजन ही नहीं है डेटा की इंटीग्रिटी है वो चेक करने की।
Okay, so let's talk.
कुछ भी को फॉल्सली डेटा डाल सकता है उसमें, जैसे मेरे को कोविड है पर मैं नेगेटिव अपना उस पे वो वाले क्लिक कर दूं।
Okay, so
या
okay, fine.
क्लिक कर दूं।
Okay, good. So we are not talking about how to how to do data integrity checks. I think that we will cover in some later topics. But as you said, suppose there is data and let's assume that our source has some problem. So if I have fed in wrong information, then my data quality is low. Suppose if I have not fed in information, so like I have fed, put in this field net not applicable, or this field was blank, in that case my data quality is poor. Other thing could be I have a lot of redundant information, two records of same kind, so then also data quality is poor, and this will lead you to create poorer models. For example, as you said that I could have fed uh, a negative COVID report when I had a positive COVID report. So in that case, it will be, so basically I am going out and nobody is able to check, nobody is able to understand whether this person is, if the proximity, if somebody who is COVID positive is in proximity. So obviously then the notifications will also be poor, and if you analyze that kind of data, then your classification will also be poor, and any inferences that you want to derive out of this data, that will also be poor. So for example, you might not be able to detect people or detect situations where people turn COVID positive. You might deny people who actually deserve loans. You might even, in poor data, you might even give the wrong information to patients that they have a disease when they don't have, or you might tell them that they don't have a disease when indeed they actually have. So pure quality data will have a negative impact on your data mining tasks. What is noise? Noise is basically some disturbance. So if suppose you have a sine wave, okay, and suddenly there was some interference. So this generally, if you have studied networks, this will generally get amplified. The frequency, these two frequency will get added. So this added frequency is noise. Now, if I talk about in terms of data mining, then if you add if suppose somebody was manually typing in data, or generally it happens with Google Forms also. If you don't set that button where you can fill the form only once, in that case sometimes some people fill the form again and again. This is what your first year students have done this year. They have filled the form so many times, so we have extraneous data. So that is noise. Or maybe while typing somebody filled in wrong information. Instead of 15 you wrote 51. So this is noise. This is an error as well as noise in this case. What are outliers? Okay, first now tell me, what is the difference between noise and outliers? What is an outlier? आउटलायर के बारे में सोच लो, थोड़ा सा टाइम लो, बट सोच लो, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कंसेप्ट है.
कोई चीज मैम जो अलग हो, जो पैटर्न चल रहा है उससे डिफरेंट हो.
ओके गुड. कोई एग्जांपल देके बता सकते हो? बिल्कुल सही बता रहे हो आप. Anyone who can think of an example? What he said was, what Harsh said was right, but any example?
मैम जैसे कि कोई वो है, कोई जैसे डेटा सेट है नंबर्स का, सारे कोई एक पर्टिकुलर नंबर से डिविजिबल है, कोई एक नंबर है जो नहीं है डिविजिबल.
ओके, सो वो नॉइज होगा कि आउटलायर होगा? मतलब वो डेटा सेट कहाँ से आया आपके पास?
आया होगा मैम कहीं से.
Okay, but see, to understand the difference between noise and outliers, you also have to understand that that's the source of data. देखो, for example, जब हम when we talk about detection of malignant cells, malignant tumors, so see, every cell in the body has certain size, okay? Every cell, so these are cells in body. जब आपका PET scan होता है या कोई भी scans होते हैं, so cells have some size, but suddenly there is a cell which is so large. What is cancer, or what is a tumor? Tumor is basically there is a lump of cell that is formed. Now this is not a mistake. Basically, when you are measuring the width, or the diameter of these cells, this detecting this cell is not a mistake. This is not an error. This cell actually exists, but all my other cells had, let's assume, 0.5. This, I don't know what is the actual diameter, but let's say this has this diameter, and this was 1 centimeter, let's assume. Okay, so this is quite a big tumor for that matter. This is pretty big. So in that scenario, if you compare, so this becomes noise. But अगर आपने ये 0.5 वाले को 0.6 लिख दिया होता, उसकी एक्चुअल वैल्यू 0.5 थी, बट आपने गलती से 0.6 लिख दी, तो ये नॉइज है. लेकिन कुछ डिफरेंट ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा में है, तो वो outlier है. So in this case, this is an outlier. This is not a noise. This is not an error. This kind of data actually exists in your system, and you might really want to evaluate the cause of it. So now you understand between the difference between noise and outliers. So
Yes.
noise is something which was introduced due to some issue, some problem, some error in your system. But outliers are data objects which have special characteristics. They are real data objects which might have special or different characteristics from other objects in your system. So data objects with characteristics that are considerably different than most of other data objects in the data set are outliers. They are some no, they might be considered some special type of noise which might interfere with your data analysis. And sometimes outliers may be the goal of data analysis. For example, as I took an example of credit card statement. Now, if I daily buy from details, then you and he tries to spend a big amount from what is my normal account. If you know, some credit card companies do check up or call the people before a big transaction is made. I don't know if you have ever seen that situation, but I have seen that, you know, if we are trying to make a bigger purchase, they always confirm before proceeding with that purchase. Why? Because for them it was an outlier, and they might have considered it to be a fraud, or maybe the credit card was stolen. So in such a scenario, you would really want to detect outliers to detect frauds or special situations. So in some kind of data analysis, if outliers are interfering, then you may remove that. And in some kind of data analysis, when detecting that outlier is the goal, then it might be of interest. So sometimes it happens that when you want to compute the average height of students in the class, so something, you know, most of the students are lying in this, and somebody tall comes up. Due to some reason, you have some tall student. Then in that scenario, I would want to exclude this person from computing the average height of students in my class, because for this scenario, he might unnecessarily skew my result. So then this person becomes a noise. But when I want to detect a tumor in the cells, then in that case, this tumor recognition becomes the target, and then I will not want to remove it. Rather, I would want to analyze it. What is so special about this cell as compared to other cells? Have you understood the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So what are the different kind of problems that you might have with data? So listen to this carefully, because you will be doing this in your first practical also. So missing values, so information may not be collected, or attributes may not be applicable. For example, people sometimes do not provide their phone numbers, so that's why a missing value is there. Or probably something is not applicable. Not everybody is a homeowner, and to handle missing values, you may simply delete those records, or you may estimate a missing value, or you may ignore the missing value. So eliminating that record is beneficial when you have millions of records. If only you have 10 records or 100 records, and if you eliminate the records which have missing values, in such a scenario, you are actually not gaining anything, because you are not actually doing the mining if you are removing the records from your system. So eliminating the records where values are missing is suggested only when you have enormous amount of data. Then, you know, removing some records may not impact your mining process. Or you may estimate a missing value. For example, if let's say that I have a class of 100 students and somebody's age is not given. Okay, so if I know that okay, everyone in this class is in the age range of 19 to 21, I might assign age 20 to that person. So I am estimating a missing value. Why? How? On based on taking the mean value of the age attribute. Or you may simply ignore the missing value by not counting it in the mining process. For example, if you are not a homeowner, you may want to ignore this particular value. Okay. Now, some missing values, reasons for missing values are missing value completely at random. So it is independent of attributes. So if it is independent of attributes, you might want to fill in the values based on the corresponding attributes. So if due to some situation you might have missed the value, by looking at other attributes, you are going to predict this value. Let's say if a person is graduate, undergraduate or not, let's assume that this attribute was in effect actually independent of age or marital status, but you used marital status and age to predict the value of education attribute. So what happened was, suppose what some people might think, okay, somebody is in the age of, let's say this person has age 30 and that person is married, so let's assume that he is an undergraduate. While it may be a case but that this person is not even a graduate, or he is not even studied till standard 10th. So if a particular attribute is independent of all the other attributes, and if you predict such values using these attributes, estimate the values using these attributes, your just a second, I am again making some mistake. Then you are basically you are saying that okay, uh, let me take more example. Let's say you have something which is 30, married and graduate, 28, single, graduate, and 19, and let's say 12 standard, and single, so on and so forth. So you have somebody's information which is independent of other attributes, but by looking at what is happening, even if this person was actually undergraduate and you predicted him to be graduate, you are not making serious damage to data, and your analysis may be unbiased because the generic trend is like this, that somebody who is in the age range of 25 to 30, they are most likely to be graduate. So you are not uh, making a huge dent to the data. Now, if your value is missing at random, so when your value is missing at random, then the missingness is related to the values. So you fill the values based on other values. Then in this case, it will produce the bias in the analysis. Is this clear, or I got you confused? If you get confused, please ask me the questions now. See, here we are saying that missingness is completely at random and this is independent of other attributes. So I can use other attributes to predict the value. In that case, it may be unbiased. The analysis may be unbiased. But if it is dependent on variables and then I am using this value, then because other variables had a role to play, then I might introduce some bias in my system. So if it is completely at random and independent, and then you use it to use other attributes of to fill the value, you are not really denting analysis. But if there is some dependence, then predictions may cause the analysis to be skewed in one direction. Missingness not at random means you have some unobserved measurements. So it could be informative or it could be non-ignorable missingness. That is, for example, that attribute is really important, but you, for example, getting an email at this point of time, getting an email address of someone is very important. Why? Because we are communicating online, and in such a scenario, if this attribute is missing, then I cannot ignore it. So but it is not possible to know what is the situation from the data. Any questions, or should I move ahead? I am not sure whether you are listening or not. Okay, maybe. Then you have data duplication. Data set may include data objects that are duplicates or almost duplicates of another. This means uh, sometimes we have duplicate data. So it could be because of redundancies. You have collected data from various sources, or it could be intentional that actually two similar records exist. So this happens when you merge data from different sources. For example, a same person with multiple email addresses. For example, I have one work at email address, one email address that I usually use to communicate people, my banks with, or some other institutes, and there is one email address that I am using for my personal communications. So I have multiple email addresses. Now if suppose I logged into Instagram or Facebook using my personal email address, because this was I was using to connect with my friends and family, and then probably I logged into let's say LinkedIn using my other email address. So this is one other email address. Now if somebody has both these informations, my other information will remain same, but there will be a duplication of record because of two different email addresses. Why? Because they try to combine data from heterogeneous sources. So which email address should we keep? Which is more relevant? Which should be dropped? How do I merge these records? This becomes problematic. So you will have to do data cleaning to and deal with duplicate data issues. Now, whether we should remove this, whether we should not remove it, remove a particular record, or whether if we should keep one record and two different email addresses for that record, it depends on how you are solving the problem. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No, somebody said no. Okay, I'll take that as a yes then. Okay, what's the time right now? Let me cover something. Okay, now what happens is, now see, you have records. Now these records will have various attributes. Some attributes may be categorical, some may be basically some may be qualitative, some may be quantitative. So this is some interval record. So this is basically black colored, and his height is let's say 5 feet, and he is undergraduate, and his salary is $20,000, let's assume. Okay, now somebody has hazel eyes, and he is 5 feet 5 inches, and he is PhD, and let's say he has salary $50,000. Now if you see, these are two different kind of records, but they have similar attributes. Now how do you compute whether they are similar or different records? How do you compute the dissimilarity or similarity between records? So for that you have similarity and dissimilarity measures. It's basically a numerical measures of how alike or different two data objects are. It's very logical that I can compute a difference between these two. I can compute a difference between these two. But how do I compute a difference between PhD and undergraduate? How do I compute a difference between hazel eyes and brown eyes? So now we will be talking about similarity measures. What will happen is we will transform these values where you cannot actually compute the distances to some numeric values like this. So maybe let's say that black eyes are 1, hazel eyes are 2, and let's say blue eyes are 3, so on and so forth. So, and when you are saying undergraduate and PhD, so let's say that PhD is 1, and post graduation is 2, and undergraduation is 3, and 12th pass is 4, so on and so forth. So what is happening is you will be transforming these attributes to these attributes, and then you will be computing the distance. How will we do that? We will talk about it. So numerical measures will compute how two different data objects are alike or different. It is similarity is high when objects are more alike, and similarity measure always falls in the range of 0 or to 1. So if similarity is close to 1, we are saying that these measures, these two objects are similar. If it is close to 0, we will be saying they are dissimilar. So dissimilarity is again the exact opposite. It says that numerical measure of how different two data objects are. It is low when objects are more alike, and minimum dissimilarity is 0, and upper limit may vary. So if you have 0 dissimilarity, that means you will have 1 similarity. That is, objects are not dissimilar, that is, they are completely similar. So proximity refers to similarity or dissimilarity of the objects. Maybe I'll start with this topic on Saturday. Okay, if you have any questions till now, you can ask me. No questions?
No, ma'am.
Such an intelligent class I have this year. इतने इंटेलिजेंट बच्चे मिले हैं मेरे को. Okay, then you can leave for now. I will meet you at on Saturday at 7:45. Please install R on your systems, and if you don't have access to that, then there are online collaboration tools for R. So just log into that, so we can just take a look at different functions in R. Okay everyone. R स्टूडियो डाल लो, कमांड लाइन वाला डाल लो, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, कैसे मर्जी भी कर लो. लैब में, कॉलेज में लैब में R स्टूडियो नहीं मिलेगा, बहुत हैवी होता है, तो कॉलेज में वो कमांड लाइन से चलेगा. अपने घर पे तो आप जैसे मर्जी कर लो, नो प्रॉब्लम.
कॉलेज वाले लैपटॉप पे
नहीं, लैपटॉप पे आप कुछ भी डाल सकते हो, बट लैब के सिस्टम्स पे R स्टूडियो नहीं डलेगा. Okay. Okay everyone, see you 8:45 AM on Saturday. Have a good day everyone.